guys, today on Watch with Poppy, we're going to be talking about Once Upon a Time. Yes, it is finally back, so let's talk about this week's episode. So as the episode starts, you know, you've got Mr. Gold and Emma getting ready to go on their kind of road trip to find his son, and it turns out that Henry comes along with them. And right off the bat, you know, that kind of like brought up all kinds of questions to me, and I'm a bad TV viewer because I can't remember why this is possible, so someone answer me this question in the comments down below. Why is it that Henry's allowed to cross the line, like without any memory loss or any issues like that? And I get that Henry is not like a character, you know, like in the Enchanted Forest, it wasn't like he was, you know, a fairy tale character. Wasn't Henry like Regina's dad, like back in the Enchanted Forest? I don't know, people, I'm confused. Like I said, bad TV watcher, because I just don't remember. So if someone can answer me that question, that would be awesome. Now back to our road trippers. Really the only real big thing we get out of them this episode is that Mr. Gold's a little freaked out about not being in Storybrooke and about kind of being out in the world without magic, and it's just like unsettled him basically. So that's kind of the general gist that we get in this episode about them. It feels like from the previews for next week that episode is going to focus on them actually finding his son. And I think from the looks of it too, we're going to be shocked by who his son is, so that should be interesting. Now, of course, back in Storybrooke, the big thing is that everybody knows that Cora and Hook are there now, and so they drag Hook out of the hospital, and he looks like a hot mess as they are trying to find Cora. He takes them back to the ship where they find this giant, Tiny, or technically his name is Anton. I guess Tiny's more of a nickname. Now, if you remember, like several episodes back when Emma and Mary Margaret were kind of trapped in the Enchanted Forest, they met him because they had to get something from him, and Emma had to go up the beanstalk, and it was really cool. But they kind of do this whole big backstory of his life and how he kind of ended up the way that he is. It turns out that Cora captured him and brought him to Storybrooke, and she kind of shrunk him, so he's kind of small, which is, you know, kind of interesting for a giant. The backstory was interesting. I mean, it's basically that he wanted to go and see what human life was like, but when he went down the beanstalk, he got betrayed by some humans. One of them turns out to have been David's twin brother, James. So when Tiny sees him, he kind of freaks out because he wants to kill him because he thinks he's James. So most of the episode, they're kind of dealing with that. Let's briefly talk about Regina too. So I don't know, I'm really kind of confused, I'll be honest, about where her character is going. Like, is she still trying to be good? Is she just kind of playing her mother? Or, you know, did her mother's kind of like whispers of, we're gonna get your son back, did those things really kind of take a hold of her and make her say, screw this being good thing, let's be bad and get my son back? I don't know, I guess we'll see. So Regina basically helps Tiny, like she gives him this mushroom which makes him become a giant again, and then he goes about trying to destroy the town so that he can find David, who he thinks is James. When he does find him, there's like an accident, and when everybody helps him, it's like his faith in humanity kind of gets restored. Because what we learn in the flashback is that when he met James, he wanted to help him, but what James did was they tricked him and they ended up coming up the beanstalk and like killing all of the rest of the giants, which is why Tiny is the only one. Now the kind of like cool part of this episode is something that I think we'll see further down the line, is that we learned that Tiny has like a piece of the beanstalk, and all he has to do is plant that somewhere, and the beanstalk grows, but also the magic beans grow, and that could be a way for everybody to kind of get back to the Enchanted Forest. Because I think that's kind of a general grumbling that we're getting from several characters, is that we don't want to stay here anymore, we want to go home, how are we going to do that? Now that kind of also brings up this conversation between Mary Margaret and David, because it's really obvious that he wants to go back, but she's really kind of hesitant, and she pretty much tells him like, look, if Emma doesn't want to go and she wants to stay here, I'm staying with her. Like, I'm not leaving her again. So you kind of get that that's going to be maybe a little bit of a conflict, and I guess we'll kind of see. We also did see some of Belle in this episode. Now, of course, she obviously still has no memory, and she's in the hospital, and they're basically treating her like a crazy person because she did see Mr. Gold use magic, and he healed her, but when she says that, you know, they keep sedating her, basically. But the kind of interesting thing about Belle in this episode is that we see her have a conversation with the stranger, as I like to call him. I know his name is Craig, but he is the stranger. Stranger danger! But he kind of hears her talking about what she saw, and then, like, late one night he sneaks into her room and he tells her, like, look, I saw it too, you're not crazy. So you get that the two of them are kind of going to join forces. I think that he's not leaving. I also think there's more to him than we're seeing. You know, like maybe he's not just a stranger or just kind of a normal kind of guy, but maybe there's something else there. Okay guys, that is my review for Once Upon a Time this week. Like I said, I liked this episode, but it did feel like mostly filler. Can't wait for next week though. Super excited about that. So I will see you guys again soon. Bye.